The new Ford Ranger is here, and it was unveiled just recently for the global market, and it's going to look pretty much the same design-wise for the US market with some probably minor cosmetic changes. So what I want to do in this video is to go over some, of course, of the spec and tech of this new Ranger, what trim levels we have to look forward to here in the US, and also, of course, compare it to the old Ranger, both from the front and, of course, the side, and last but not least, the rear, and see what's different and if it's actually an improvement over the old design. I'm going to share my thoughts on that as well. So the powertrain isn't new or exciting here for the new Ranger because they decided to continue to use the turbocharged 2.3 liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder with 270 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque, and it's paired with a 10-speed automatic transmission as well as in the current truck. A 6-speed manual is available for the global market, but I doubt it's going to come here to the US, which I think is a shame, because this is the size of truck that I think it's okay. You still kind of want to have a manual in some situations with this mid-sized trucks. The full-size trucks, I understand that they kind of have to be automatic, where it's more smooth with an automatic in those sizes, but this is still small enough that I think it would be cool to have manual here in the US as well. However, even though they use the same old 2.3 liter, we do have a Ranger Raptor model that should be available in the US hopefully by the end of 2023, and that is expected to use a modified version of the twin turbocharged 2.7 liter V6 that we found in the Bronco. The new Ranger, it gets a little bigger all around. The wheelbase has increased by 2 inches and the width is increased by 2 inches as well, and these two changes combined should improve the ride quality, even though it will use a similar suspension setup as the current Ranger. However, this time the rear dampers are positioned inside the frame rails. Because of the similar mechanical setup here as the current Ranger, you can expect it to offer a pretty similar 7,500 pound towing capacity as the current truck. But on the inside, that's where the major changes happen here. Really needed an update, and you have now a 10.1 inch touchscreen as standard on the new Ranger with an optional 12-inch unit, and the interior now looks and most likely feels like it belongs in this decade. It's a pretty similar graphics on the inside as those you find in the new F-150. The 2023 Ford Ranger for the global market will go into production next year and be built in Thailand and South Africa, and there is no info yet as to when it will go on sale here in the US, but it will be as a 2023 model. Now let's jump into Photoshop and let's have some fun with this design here. Talk to you what I think about this design. So as you know, whenever I see a car for the first time, the thing I do is just bring up a notepad and write down my first initial impressions here. So I have my notes right there of what I thought about the Ranger. The second I saw it, I just pick up a pen and write down whatever I see. So I have keywords here that we're gonna try to decipher. So one is rubber band, that's one note, and second is intrusion between graphic elements, and then you have static height graphically and wobbly lights. Now this doesn't make sense at all to you, but to me, I know exactly what I mean with these keywords here, and that's what I want to talk about right now. So let's start with rubber band first of all. And what do I mean by rubber band? When I saw it in yellow, this was the first picture up here I saw of the front end of the Ranger. It looks cool. It's a cool graphic layout, and it's very, very similar to the Maverick. However, this feels more stylized than the Maverick, which is interesting because the Maverick is the smallest little unibody truck. This is a body on frame truck. So I would think that the higher you go up in the levels of truck, the less stylized it's supposed to be. If you look at the F-150, for example, it's very strict in the front end, very beautiful and almost architectural in this approach. This is a lot more stylized than both the F-150 and the Maverick. I'm not sure if that has to do with the fact that this is a global truck and it's sold pretty much all over the world, but the rubber band thing that I saw here are these things like right here. So you see these things sticking up in and taking intrusion on this space, which is this the top half of the graphic front fascia of this truck. That's what I mean when I wrote intrusion between graphic elements here, is that this rubber band, it feels like it's just holding the top part of the truck, that like they tied a rubber band across the front end to hold down the grill or something. That's what this reminded me of when I first saw it, and I think it's intruding too much onto the top half of the face in the front. So if if we divide this into graphic elements like this, into two separate areas of graphics, we have the top part which has the grille right here, and you have the headlights as well. And then we have the same, in this case, the same height, we have the lower part, and this houses the air intake in the bottom. Most of all, the bumper is supposed to be there as well. And these two, in my opinion, we have another note here was static height graphically. So what I mean by that is that the static height here is that we have the same height between these two. And if you look at the old Ranger, this has a clear, first of all, a clear separation between the two. You have a clear separation between the lower part and the top part right here, which I prefer in this case. And you don't have anything from the bottom intruding up onto this top part right here, like you have with this rubber band sticking out right here into the grille and kind of ties everything together. It looks a little less dynamic than the old version. Might work on, for example, a crossover, but not when you have a truck like this, at least in my opinion. So I'm gonna make a redesign of this on the Sketch Monkey channel as well, because I kind of want to see what I want to change here to make it look the way I want it to. Another thing I want to talk about is one keyword, another note that I had here was wobbly lights. What I mean by that is I think this looks a little insecure of what it wants to do, the LED in the front end here. We have a lot of curvatures going on here, and they are very subtle in some parts, and you also have an angle of the headlight, so it doesn't face exactly straight forward, as you can see right here. There is a bit of an angle on the headlight, and that creates these sometimes interesting curvatures that look like, I don't know if it's supposed to be a curvature there or not, but what I do like about these headlights is this little thing right here. This added thickness in the end of the LED right here, which creates a very strong identity for the Ranger, and it sets it apart from the F-150 and the Maverick as well by having this little detail right there. Otherwise, it would be very hard to kind of separate this specifically from the F-150. The Maverick kind of has a thicker line right here and a thicker LED altogether, but it's clear that they have separated the three front fascias of the Maverick, the Ranger, and the Ford F-150 by playing around with the front graphics in the front end. I think it's a cool looking front end overall, don't get me wrong, but I think it could be made even better and more in line with what a mid-size truck by Ford should look like, based on the design of the full-size F-150 and the entry base little Maverick. I think we can make a few changes to this design, and I'm going to do that, as I said, on the Sketch Monkey channel. Now let's have a look at the rear view here of the new Ranger up here, of course, and the old one down here. I still like the old one a lot. I think even in the front end, we didn't talk a lot about the front end. I do like that it has a little squintier headlights right here. Overall, I think I prefer the way this looks, the layout of the graphics compared to the new Ranger. And in the rear, there's really not a lot to talk about, but we do have this line right here. We have a clear line going through the body here, both the doors, then it continues into the bed here. I like this. This is cool. This is something that we rarely see in trucks, when you have lines that continues from the greenhouse or the base of the truck, the side of the truck, that then continues into the bed side. And that shows me that intentional, that it's there, and that it is connected to the same truck, basically the same design, because it also connects this part right here, this box, which is the bed, it connects it graphically now with the rest of the truck. So it has a clear connection between the two. You can see that this line then continues into this right here. There is a little line right here as well. And then of course you have Ranger stamped onto the back, just like we have on the old one as well. So this is a little more soft in its approach to the lines. I do know that we do have a line that is similar to the new one here. We just can't see it on this specific side, this view of the old Ranger. But if we look at the side view, you can clearly see that this has the same kind of line in this side here, but on the old Ranger it stops and it fades out here, and it never comes back in the bed. So that's what I like about this little detail right here. You see this sharp line right here. It just shows that it's intentional to be there, and that it has a connection to the rest of the volumes of the truck. So we have volume number 1 being the hood, and then we have volume number 2 being the greenhouse right here, and then we have, of course, volume number 3 being the bed. So you want to have at least a connection connection between two of these volumes in a truck, make it look a little more dynamic. If you look at the new Tundra, it's very boxy and it doesn't have any connection graphically between these three volumes. Looking at the greenhouse here of the new truck, it looks very similar to the old greenhouse right here. I'm not sure if they kind of reused the same kind of greenhouse there, but it doesn't really matter because it's a cool looking greenhouse of the old Ranger as well. I like this little dip up here. It looks pretty low, this greenhouse, and I like that. We have the ratio between this and the door being almost 2/3 down here and 1/3 right here, which is almost sports car like proportions when you look at just that segment of the truck. And the bed side, proportionally, it looks very cool. I really like the new Ranger because it has the same kind of proportions as the old Ranger. Even though it is 2 inches taller, it doesn't change the proportions because it's also 2 inches wider. So it's kind of stretched on both of those directions, and it really works here with the new one as well. I'm not sure what this is, this bed bar right here, but I like the design of it. It looks very organic and fluid. Now I quickly want to go over the interior and the upgrades here as well. So this is the old one down here. You can see just how dated it looks now, specifically compared to the cleaned up new interior here. And of course you have the digital instrument cluster, and this is the 12-inch optional screen right here. Don't mind that everything is flipped here. This is the only interior image I could find, and it was from a right-hand drive Ford Ranger, so I kind of just had to flip everything. But just looking at the graphics and the overall feel here, this feels like, you can tell that this is hard plastic. I think it's maybe different up here with some soft touch material. This reminds me a lot of the Ford F-150 interior, which looks great, and was also a big update for F-150, the interior, when the new one 2021 model came out. I think the same feeling is going to be here for the new Ranger as well. So overall, I think it's a cool looking design. The weird thing for me is just the treatment of the graphics, because as I said, usually what happens when you have a truck like this, a truck lineup, so you start with the small Maverick, then you have the Ranger, F-150, and then F-250 or whatever you have above that. But going up to Ford F-150, usually what happens is the smaller the car, the smaller the truck and car and crossovers or whatever in the lineup, the more stylized the car is. Just look at the Mercedes C-Class compared to the E-Class compared to the S-Class or the 3 Series, 5 Series, and 7 Series. The higher up you go, the more restrained the styling becomes, and it gets more architectural and horizontal and vertical the higher up you go in the lineup and the bigger the vehicle is. So that's why I'm kind of a little bit confused here with the Ranger, because it feels a lot more stylized than the Maverick, for example, which has a very clean front end, and you have these rubber bands here in the new Ranger, which I'm gonna try and see what I can do about in the redesign on the Sketch Monkey channel. Overall, clean looking design. I can't wait to see what people do with this, specifically when they add a little more off-road tires to it, and wheels and tires. It's gonna be a cool looking Ranger whenever I see it out on the streets.